Top of the morning. This is KPFK Los Angeles. The program is Sojourner Truth. My name is Sylvester Rivers, sitting in for Margaret Prescott. Every Tuesday morning, Sojourner Truth airs here on KPFK Los Angeles. This morning we have a special show. We're going to be a couple of things. We're going to look at the movie Sinners. We have a film critic, Brooke Obie, who will break it down for us. And I don't know which one will come first. We'll listen to Dr. Greg Carr on the creation of black leadership. Yes, I did say the creation of black leadership. And then we will also open the phones at 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. Hit option 1 to go on the air live. Brooke Obie is a film critic. And there's films out, like I said today, The Sinners is a film. I don't know if it fits in any of these categories, but there's a lot of talk about it. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to promise that we're not going to give it away, be a spoiler. So you might tune out and just listen to the program on kpfk.org archives at a later date. But we're going to jump into it. So film has been a means to create a narrative of social acceptance, denial, etc. And as a melanated man, a child growing up in the United States, we were so ecstatic to see people who look like us, because it wasn't the norm. And if it was on negative, as a negative. But Brooke Obie, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you this morning? This is Brooke Obie. You are our film critic, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and I never know. I mean, do you get paid for this, a film critic?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I mean, not for this interview, but...
No, not for this interview. Where is it? That's amazing. You know, I'm in the wrong business because I don't get paid for sitting here.
It's a good gig. You know, I love movies and, I love talking about them, love thinking about them, love writing about them. So, yeah, it's a pretty good gig.
Okay, well, I can imagine. Well, you know, I started out by talking about films and how they are historically, especially black films, have been a propaganda machine to make us really look insignificant, inferior. Of course, that changed when you had independent black filmmakers, and there's a lot of black film today. Matter of fact, I have on my Pan-African Film Festival T-shirt right now. But then there's this other film that just came out, Sinners. Oh my! And everybody's talking about the Sinners. It's what is it? Sci-fi. Tell us what it is about and why why you feel there's so much talk about it.
I think so. It's really it's a horror film. It's a little blaxploitation. There's a little Western. I mean, it's a lot of different genres. There's a heist movie. There's a lot of different genres, I think, in the movie. I think people are talking about it because it's just very obvious that the director and writer of this original story, Ryan Coogler, really wanted to tell a personal story for him. This is a story dedicated to his great uncle whom he lost, who was from Mississippi, who was, alive in the 1930s. And so this was really kind of a movie that is conjuring the spirit of his uncle so that he could essentially say goodbye in a way that he did not get to say goodbye to his uncle. And so, I think people can feel that. I think people can feel that it's a personal story. People can feel that this is a story that that's exploring Black liberation and wants us to be free. And so, I think people are responding to that and it's resonating with people because, when you tell a story that's that personal, that's that specific, that's about Black history, Black survival, Black music as resistance. This is a story about the blues as well, and the ways that the blues it has been used not only to build the foundation of the music that we currently enjoy today, all forms of music, from gospel, country, Western, hip hop, R&B, all of these are offshoots of the blues. And so to talk about, this music that's very specifically Black American, that's very specific to coming out of slavery, to being in, the cotton fields. I think it's a powerful movie about our spirituality, about the ways that we conjure the strength of our ancestors to keep moving forward. And so I think there's a little bit of hope that the movie is giving to people. And I mean, Black people specifically, but I do think there's there's more than Black people that's watching this movie. There's more than Black people that's enjoying the movie. It's made almost $350 million worldwide at this point. So it is definitely resonating beyond the Black community. But I think that's what happens when you make a specific movie. It just has a universal appeal. And that's what we're seeing here.
So are you saying that because a lot of these movies, those being Black films, are usually dominantly seen by Black patrons or I would say people of color patrons, but you're saying a lot of white people are saying this, and do we have statistics?
Oh, I mean, it has to be. I mean, there's a lot of us who have seen it multiple times. Like I have seen it 8 times at this point.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
There's a lot of people who have, there's a lot of Black people who have seen it multiple times, but there's just not enough of us to get to the numbers that we're at now. So this is definitely a movie that has to be resonating across the board. I mean, the other part of it is that, Ryan Coogler included other people besides Black people in the cast. There's Haley Steinfeld and Jack O'Connell. There's the characters Grace and Bo Chow, who are the Chinese grocery store owners. And, that is very accurate to the time period in the Mississippi Delta where there was a substantive Chinese immigrant population who were running these grocery stores because they could move between the worlds of Black and white and sell on both sides of the street to a Black in a segregated anti-Black, world. They benefited from that. So, having these other communities also drew in other communities in the audience.
This is like a history lesson. It seems like you're saying that movie is almost like a history lesson.
Wow. No, it definitely is. There's a specific scene in the film, this like ethereal juke scene where you're actually watching the evolution of music in this country and around the world. It's you see that there are roots in this in blues music that are African. You see the African ancestors come out, and then you see it go all the way through to the future. You have the electric guitar, you have girls in there twerking, you have Crips and the Bloods, who are doing their walks. I mean, you can see how, the through line in this movie of the evolution of history. You can see the through line, the evolution of slavery. So, this isn't a quote unquote slave movie in that, this is not happening during slavery times. It's 1932 Clarksdale, Mississippi. But you have chain gangs, which was an evolution of slavery. You have sharecropping, which was an evolution of slavery, which kept Black people on plantations in the South and paid them with plantation money so that they could not ever make a profit. So yeah, this movie, I think, in a lot of ways, is absolutely a history lesson.
I did see the movie, but after you said all that, I think I might want to be one of those people who go see it again.
For sure.
I want to open up the phones to our audience also, 818-985-5735, hit option 1. If you want to be a part of this conversation. So I heard there was you mentioned a lot of symbolism, but also, I did see it and I said, it's a vampire movie.
Absolutely. So that's the thing too, that it's a horror movie, vampire specifically. So you got the fantasy element in there as well. So definitely a multi-genre movie, but the vampires don't come in till at least, an hour into the film, because Black people are facing, this is the Jim Crow South. Black people are facing a lot more problems than, this fantasy element. So you see all the things that, Black people have to deal with before you get to, these fantastical demons that I think represent, capitalism, represent white supremacy, represent neoliberalism, just like a kinder, gentler way to kill you as a Black person. There's a lot of symbolism in the movie.
So there you so much. There's so much in there. So you said people see it multiple times. Why do they see it multiple times? Because of all the simple. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just speak for myself. I think it's been a very rare experience for me that I feel compelled to go into a movie multiple times, beyond writing about the movie. Generally, as a critic, I will see a movie more than once because I like to do deep dives in my reviews, which people can go to Black Girl Watching on Substack if they want to read all of my deep dives. I think at this point I've written about 4 pieces on Sinners, including a syllabus that people can use to go further with the themes. But that was, I had already written my first piece on it, my review. I had written it after my 3rd time seeing it. So I think, the reasons why I've seen it more than that, again, this is a movie about conjuring people that you've lost. And, if you see the film, this is, there's 3 main characters. It's Sammy, who's a young man who is an aspiring blues singer, and his 2 big cousins, Smoke and Stack, who were twins played by Michael B. Jordan fantastically. And so, there's this beautiful relationship between the older cousins and the younger cousin who can't wait to, finally be old enough to hang out and spend the day with his big cousins. And, coming from the South, having, my big cousins from North Carolina. And I really felt like I saw all of my older cousins in Smoke and Stack, but mostly a cousin of mine that had passed away when he was 30 years old. And so, it feels like an opportunity for, the people that we've lost to be alive again for a little while, to be embraced by us for a little while. And I think, people have said that there's also hoodoo in the movie, which is a Black American specific spiritual tradition. And so it's conjuring. There's a conjure woman, played by Wunmi Masako in the movie. And so people are saying, Ryan Coogler put hoodoo magic in this movie to make people want to keep going back to see it. So, there's a little bit of that too. But I think the most beautiful thing about this is that it's making people, it's this idea of Sankofa. It's making people want to go back into their ancestry like Ryan did, to find out, where their people are from, to reconnect specifically with, the root workers in their family. My great grandmother was a root worker. And so my cousin reached out to me and was like, what resources, what books can we read so we can find out more about hoodoo? So we've been reading this book, Mojo Working, together. So yeah, there's a big element of that, that it feels like, even though there is horror in the movie, even though there's a lot of destruction, you do feel a sense of catharsis at the end of the film. And I think, especially in these times, we can get something out of that is comforting, that is reassuring, and that connects us back to something that we've lost. I think people realize that there is something that we have lost in this process of colonialism, in this process of slavery that has disconnected us and that makes us want to reconnect. And so I think that's what the movie speaks to, and that's what people are responding to.
So interesting. I realize that we are so starved for images of ourselves that
Yes.
that even if you have a good trailer that comes out about a black movie, it automatically gets a whole bunch of watches because we're starved. Like when at the beginning of the show, I talked about a little bit of the history of the movies and television and how racist it was. So when we see that, it's like, wow, especially if it has any itty bitty bit of positivity in there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Does that make sense to you?
I absolutely agree with that as well. So speaking of Wunmi Musaku, she is a beautiful Nigerian British actress who is playing Annie, and she is dark skinned, she is full figured, and she is being loved on by Michael B. Jordan. And that's just not something that we see. Particularly whether it's in Michael B. Jordan films or elsewhere, we really don't see dark skinned black women being loved and being loved, openly. And, so yeah, there's that element of that too. This is a rare thing that we get to see. There's a lot of colorism, definitely sizeism in Hollywood. And so, yeah, I think that there's another element of that where, you see a black love story where the love interest is not a thin, lighter than a paper bag person. So yeah, there's that element as well.
She said lighter than a paper bag. We'll
I
explain
mean,
that. I know I
that's
will
real.
explain it. It's real, but a lot of people don't understand that. We'll explain it in a minute.
I mean, it's a little like if you've seen a paper bag, that was a literal test. They had the paper bag test back in the day that I feel like people are still operating on because they've memorized the color of the paper bag. They don't have to hold the
And
paper
what
bag
was
up
the
to a
paper
person's
bag
face
test?
anymore.
Make it
So
clear.
you put the paper bag up to a person's face to see whether or not, they are lighter than the bag. If they're lighter than the bag, then, they get to have access. They get to
Come into the
have
party.
benefits. And if you're darker than the paper bag, you don't get to come in. You're not invited. You're actually discriminated against. That's what colorism is, discriminating against dark-skinned people systemically. It's not bullying like, people say, like everybody gets bullied as a kid, everybody gets teased, all these kinds of things. I'm talking about systemic discrimination where you can get longer jail sentences if you are darker skinned. You get less opportunities for jobs. You get less pay as a darker skinned person. I mean, these are, significant things that happen not just in Hollywood, but across the board. So yeah, so that's the paper bag test. And yeah, it's alive and well today. You can see it in even movies directed and written by Black people. You can see that colorism that is alive and well. And I think, Ryan has done a, significant thing here by breaking that idea, even though it does kind of, I guess, balance out because the other twin that Michael B. Jordan plays, he's got a octoroon girlfriend.
Octoroon, okay. I haven't heard that in a while.
You have 1/8
1/8,
of
one drop in
Black
is 1/8.
ancestry, right? So the one drop rule meant that you were a Black person, but this is obviously a white woman who's living in the world as a white woman. She's operating as a white woman. I call her 1932 Karen because that's how she acts in the movie. But yeah, she would have, if people knew her ancestry, she would have been considered Black, but she was definitely a white woman.
818-985-5735. Hit option 1 if you want to join in the conversation. 818-985-5735. Hit option 1. You mentioned Sankofa and how, I mean, that's Sankofa is a hard line to follow because that was totally positive. But I guess because you said they're going back into the past. And for those who don't know, Sankofa was a fantastic movie made by Haile Gerima, talking about a sister who went to Ghana, went to a slave dungeon, and was transformed back into the past and had a reawakening. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's a Twi word that means go back and get it. And so it's like a reclamation of your ancestry. It's a reclamation of the things that you may have left behind, or the things that may have been forced out of your hands. Like for us as descendants of enslaved people, these things were forced out of our hands: our culture, our language, our community, our spiritual traditions. They were replaced by European ideologies, white supremacy, anti-blackness, Christianity, all these other things, which is also addressed in the movie. And so, yeah, go back and get it means go get your inheritance.
So,
however you have to.
You talk about this movie. It seems very artistic. When I did see it, it was very artistic, the good and the bad, but the way he put that stuff in there. And when you ran it down, it's like, okay, I might have to go see it again because of all the different symbolism. 818-985-5735, hit option 1. We have John from China, California. What do you have, a question, comment, suggestion?
I came in late, and one of the first things I'd like to ask is, what is this movie called?
Sinners.
Oh, Sinners. Yeah, she used the term hoodoo for voodoo, and in 1975, I had a relative who either was or considered herself on the white side of things, and she said that she was going to put it out, hoodoo for voodoo, in order to instigate trouble between African Americans and the hoodoo people of Rwanda and Burundi, seeing that they are a powerful people. And I would like to know if you know just how far hoodoo, the term hoodoo with the H, is used in place of voodoo for V. Because seeing that they are a people, I don't think that we should quite use hoodoo as a word to refer to witchcraft, but voodoo with a V. All right, well, I'll take your response off the air. Bye.
Go ahead, Brooke Obie.
Okay, yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, there's a fantastic book. It's called Mojo Workin'. That really does delve. It's an academic text. It really delves into the difference between hoodoo and voodoo. They are separate. Voodoo has a system of gods, of deities, that hoodoo doesn't have, which is why hoodoo is used kind of in conjunction with Christianity. Actually, the founder of the Kojic Church was a root worker, a hoodoo practitioner. And so that there's a lot of hoodoo practices still in the Black church tradition and Christianity. It was also paired with Islam, and so they're separate. They were originating, I think, simultaneously, because again, these are practices that were developed during enslavement. So yeah, you have a lot of Haitian practitioners who went to Louisiana and back and forth, and that's kind of been mixed in with Catholicism and using the Ifa Orishas, the Nigerian gods, and pairing them off with Catholic saints in order to protect them from persecution by their enslavers, because that was, maintaining your African spiritual traditions and religions was, it was punishable during slavery. So they were able to pair in voodoo, able to pair their gods with, Catholic saints. That's not the same in hoodoo. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. That was the engineer.
Yeah. So so hoodoo is, a different, it's a different practice, that is from, that was developed mainly in the South. Because of the Great Migration, this was something that, Black Southerners also took to the North. So, it's a specific Black American, religion that was mixed also with Native American. So it's about understanding, root working is about understanding plant life, balance. So I think that, the mixing between Black and Native American communities, Native Americans would be more aware of what are the plants to use for certain things and how we can match them up with the plants that we use in Africa to do these same, healing practices, or curses even. There were definitely roots to, harm the master, kill the master. There were roots that served as abortifacient. So if you, were pregnant and you did not want to be during slavery, there were herbal remedies for that as well. So there were, all sorts of things that were developed, spells that were developed in hoodoo during slavery that have continued on. There are many practitioners still today. There's a lot of people who are practicing and they don't know that they're practicing because, it's been so demonized that people have not either knowingly passed on or it's kind of pushed away as superstition. But this was, and is a functioning spiritual practice for Black Americans still today. And yeah, I think this movie is waking people up to that and helping them, to find resources to reconnect with that part that they have lost.
Amazing.
So yeah, definitely you can, on Black Girl Watching, my Substack, you can find the syllabus. I have a whole section on hoodoo where we see it in movies, we see it in film, we see it in art, we see it in music. Howlin' Wolf, major blues artist, had a song called "I Got My Mojo Working." Hoodoo was not as looked down upon in earlier parts of our history, and yeah, that's something that we should reconnect to and honor.
A good lesson on hoodoo. I wasn't quite familiar. I'm more familiar with what we call Valdoon, which they call voodoo. Valdoon. I had a Valdoon priestess on one time. So Valdoon, which is a lot in Haiti, is, like you said, a spiritual practice. And the mojo, all those things, actually, I think, contributed to the Haitian Revolution and its success.
Absolutely.
Using that. When I was in Cuba, it was amazing. I saw a whole presentation of the Orisha, which you wouldn't think about this in Cuba, but as the further east you go, the more Africanized it gets. But Valdoon is what people refer to as voodoo, and of course they tried to demonize that. I think it was the first Bush who called it voodoo economics. So they always want to put a negative slant on everything. So in the film Sinners, which we're talking about with Sister Brooke Obie, they have there is so much symbolism there, and you ran through it at the beginning of the program. There's a lot of things, culture, you said exploitation, non-exploitation, but on and on. 818-985-5735. We have Tandi from Los Angeles. Welcome to KPFK, Sojourner Truth. You're speaking with Brooke Obie. Talk to us.
Good morning. Good morning. Real quick, a couple of things. I think the caller who was talking about Rwanda and hoodoo versus voodoo, I think he was talking about the Hutu people, Hutu, which is not the same as hoodoo. So I think that might be what he is referring to. The other thing that I'm not really hearing about or seeing a lot, but the connection that I made in the film centers, I believe it's a rebuke of Western or European or white Christianity. And I'm not seeing that talked about a lot. I'm hearing and seeing a lot of Black Christians' reactions to it, which, they have not seen the film. They make videos talking about why they won't see it. Some have seen it, but I really think it's a rebuke of the type of Christianity that has kept Black people oppressed, as opposed to the Christianity liberation theology, the way that we infuse our Africanness into every single thing that we do, which is why, Annie is the hoodoo woman who has most of the prescriptions for what is needed. It's one of the reasons why the Lord's Prayer, which is recited by both Sammy when he believes that the end is near. It's also recited by the vampire who he believes is about to kill him. The Irish knew that prayer well also because they were colonized by Britain. And so there's no cross that's going to stop these vampires the way in most vampire movies you hold up a cross and they scatter. It's hoodoo and our traditions, which is eventually what saves Sammy. The guitar has silver in it, which bides him enough time for Sammy the vampire to be staked through the heart and then for the sun to come up and finish him off. And lastly, and then I'll shut my mouth.
You don't have to keep going on with your bad self. You all right?
Sure. When you talk about Orishas, I haven't seen yet, maybe because I haven't brought it up yet, Stack and Smoke, the Michael A. Jordan and Michael B. Jordan characters, representing Orishas, Ogun, and Shango, and not just because of the colors that they're wearing, red and blue. So hopefully I'll see that discussion going on elsewhere.
So this is in the movie they were wearing colors of the Orisha? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they were, but that's not the reason why they, in my mind, they represent Ogun and Shango, these two Orishas of the Yoruba Lukumi tradition. It's because of their personalities also.
And for those of you who don't know what she's saying, she's talking about, I think it's mostly out of West Africa and Ghana. Orishas is a spiritual... Nigeria? Okay, West Africa.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In a lot of, we'll call it Western Africa, because you know what they did? They just divided it up. Said, oh, this is Nigeria, this is Ghana, even though... So you step over that border, then it's different. I'm sorry.
But no, I just wanted to throw that in there. I'm out.
Perfect. Thank you. That was very enlightening.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head because, for one, Ryan has actually talked about the fact that Smoke and Stack, these twins, because there's so much duality in the movie as well, good and evil, light, dark, et cetera, et cetera. He's actually also calling on the Ibeji, that is a twin deity in Orisha as well. So I definitely think you're right on the mark to think that these are representative of Orishas, and they could definitely be more than one. The other major part of that, I mean, absolutely, there are Christians who believe that this movie is a rebuke of Christianity. I would push back on that interpretation, though. I really felt like it was an expansion of Christianity and understanding of the fact that, you know, we are holy and spiritual. Our gifts are holy and spiritual. The work that we're doing, the hoodoo, all of this is all something that is, it was, again, used in conjunction with Christianity, used to found the Kojic Church specifically. So, you know, that and all these spiritual practices that continue in many different denominations of Christianity in the Black church in America today. So I think by Sammy, yes, there is a whole portion where the demonic vampire is baptizing Sammy and trying to make him submit. So I think the lesson here is that there is a Christianity that is oppressive, that is dominating, that is punishing. And that's what both Remick, the vampire, and Sammy's father, the pastor, kind of represent. So his pastor father obviously loves him. He cares about him. He's concerned for his soul, you know, and so, but the result is the same. The result from both Remick and Sammy's father is to try to force Sammy to do something that he doesn't want to do. Force him to use his music in a specific way that is contrary to what Sammy wants to do. And so when his father, Jedediah, played by the amazing Saul Williams, is trying to get his son at the end of this film to put the guitar down as a symbol, you know, I'm not going to this devil's music anymore. I'm going to dedicate, you know, my heart, my voice, my soul to the Lord. And he rejects that premise. Sammy rejects it, not to say I'm rejecting Christianity, but to say Sammy's mind rolls back to Pearline when his father talks about giving your heart to God. And that's kind of a representation of, you know, when he had this romantic, sexy moment with Pearline in the club, that was holy. That's what in his mind, that was a holy spiritual experience. When he's talking about giving your voice to God, he's thinking about his mind flashes back to Delroy Lindo's Delta Slim, who sacrificed his life so that Sammy could survive till the morning. So that is another aspect too. Like the Delta Slim was a voice of God for him. He was giving him, our oral history about what the blues is. When we see that ethereal juke joint scene, and you see, all the ancestors coming through, and you see the past and the future and the present all happening at one time. That was a holy, spiritual, significant thing that came from God. That's what Sammy's remembering. This man, Delta Slim, he was the voice of God for me. He showed me, he taught me, my history and how important the work we were doing in blues is. And I'm not going to let that go. When he says, give your soul to God, there's a flash of Sammy in the church playing the guitar. And we see that scene again at the final end credits. We see Sammy before the slash on the face. So we know it was an earlier point in history when he's in this church and he's playing This Little Light of Mine. And I think that's the thesis of the film. He says, this little light of mine, this, old, Black American spiritual, I'm going to let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm going to let it shine. So I'm not going to be confined to your idea of what is holy, what is spiritual, what God wants me to do. It's not confined to these four walls as his pastor father thinks. And it's not confined to what the devil, the vampire Remick, wants him to do either, to be soul dead, to be disconnected from his ancestry. These are not the paths. He gets to decide what the path is. And because he has a spiritual connection to God directly, because he has a spiritual connection through his ancestors, he can reject all these other things and say, everywhere I go, if I'm in the juke joint, it's a holy place. Because look, when I play this music as a griot, I'm opening up a portal, and all the past, present, and future are happening all at one time. That's a holy experience. So I do think there are, Christians who are being very reactive to the movie, and I think it's just misguided. I think it's an expansion of Christianity in that you can be, the gifts that you are given spiritually. They are spiritual gifts, and that you can represent God, you can praise God through the work that you're doing. And it does not have to be very specific to a religion or the way that religion tells you to behave. God is bigger than that, and your gifts can be too. I think it's a beautiful message.
Any last thoughts, though? I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to say that June 1st, we are having a Sinners Club Juke discussion and dance party in LA on Crenshaw at Project 43 from 4 to 7 p.m. So come on out to Club Juke on June 1st, and we'll talk about the movie. I've got posters and all kinds of paraphernalia Warner Brothers sent over, and we can dance afterwards.
And that's Brooke Obie. Thank you so much for that analysis of the film, The Sinners. Top of the